Hey YouTubers, welcome back to another episode of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, May 13th, 2011. The weather's really picking up. We're starting to get some really nice spring weather now. It's going to make it a lot easier to make videos on lawnmowers and other stuff like that. Everybody's happy to see the nice weather and everybody's got their lawnmower out now. And I just took my lawn tractor out yesterday. It's got the 23 horsepower overhead valve Intech engine from Briggs, V-twin. It's a pretty good engine, it's pretty big, it doesn't vibrate too much. Here's a Yardworks battery powered lawnmower. I don't know if anybody has any experience with these, but I took off the battery and found out that the batteries had all leaked out their fluid or acid. There's basically two batteries like this in this case, so I took it apart to see what it was in there. Now I don't know what the price is on a new battery for that lawnmower. I gotta price that out to see if it's even worth repairing. First question I got today is a YouTuber sent me a question in regards to his air filter on his ATV. What I'm going to explain next is going to apply to all power equipment with air filters, ATVs, anything. Now this is the question he sent me. Why would an engine want to cut out when you put the air filter back on? He says that he's already cleaned it and put it back on, so he assumed that the air filter would be good to use that way. Well, I'll show you why an air filter may not be good to use even though you think you may have cleaned it. Here's an air filter from an 8 horsepower Briggs & Stratton motor. Now this filter is made of cardboard, as you can see here. What may happen sometimes is these filters may get saturated with oil, whether the machine was tipped over or somebody accidentally spilled oil on the filter. And what happens after that is that the air cannot flow through the filter because it's clogged with oil. It doesn't allow the air to go through. You may think that the filter looks clean, but in reality, it's not allowing the air to go through. So, as the YouTuber says, when he goes to put the filter back on his ATV, it won't run. Well, the most likely cause for that is that your air filter is plugged even though it may look clean. Just get a new filter, that should solve your problem. Now, on some lawnmowers with a foam filter like this, they recommend that you put oil on it, squeeze the excess oil, and then install it. With the foam filters, you won't have the same problem with oil getting in there as you will in a filter made out of cardboard. The cardboard filters are more prone to getting plugged if they get oil in them than the foam ones. So always remember, if you put your air filter on your machine and it wants to die out or get choked out, always replace the air filter. Also, if your equipment is running with a dirty air filter, it may consume more fuel because it's actually working like sort of a choke. It's actually preventing air from flowing properly through the carburetor and in the engine, and therefore more gas gets into the engine and gets burned. And if your filter is plugged, the RPMs on your engine may not be as high as they should, and it's not going to run as efficiently as it should. In my next question, a lot of people are asking me, where's the starter solenoid located on lawn tractors? Well, on my Craftsman lawn tractor, the solenoid is located right back here. Now, on a lot of lawn tractors, you're going to find the solenoid either behind this panel or underneath over here. On this tractor, for example, you'd have to remove this plate here, and your solenoid would be right behind the plate. As you can see, the positive cable from the starter will lead you to the solenoid. So if you can't find the solenoid, just follow the positive cable from the starter. It's going to lead you right to it. And all that's holding the solenoid are the two bolts here. And on a lot of other lawn tractors, like MTDs especially, you can remove the plate here where the gear shifter is on those tractors, and underneath the plate over here, the solenoid is going to be bolted on under there. So it's either here or there. On some other tractors it could be in other areas, but like I said, if you can't find it, follow the positive wire or cable from the starter. Another question I get asked often is in regards to rust building up inside the metal tank on older Briggs & Stratton engines. People are wondering, is there a way to get that rust out of the tank so that I can reuse the tank? Some other people are saying, I've cleaned the tank of all the rust, but then when I used it for a while, there's more rust clogging up the screen in the fuel tank. What do I do? Well, what I usually do is, if there's not much rust in the fuel tank, I'll try to remove the rust, get it out, and then try the machine. If there's no other rust that comes off to clog up the screen in the fuel filter, then you can keep the tank. But what happens often is that there's so much rust built up in the tank that even if you clean it, after you go use your equipment, the rust will dislodge inside the tank and clog up the screen again, and this will keep happening over and over and over until you replace the fuel tank. This is what I mean by the older Briggs & Stratton motors with a metal tank like this. This tank here was so rusted out that there was no way to clean it and reuse it. What would have happened is if I would have tried cleaning it and reinstalling it on the rototiller, is that the screen at the bottom of the carburetor tube would have gotten filled up with rust again and clogged up. And after that, even if I took the carb out, cleaned the filter and put it back in, same thing would happen. And then you get people upset because they think you did a bad job. So best thing to do is just replace the fuel tank. By the way, this tank was over $130. It's the 3-quart sized fuel tank. You can also get the 1-quart sized tank, and the 1-quart size is only about 85 bucks. So I highly recommend, if you're fixing it for somebody else, replace the fuel tank. If you're fixing it for yourself and you don't mind taking the carburetor off once in a while to clean the filter, then maybe you can manage it that way. But if you're doing it for someone else, save yourself the aggravation and them the aggravation and just replace it. It costs a lot of money to replace the fuel tank, so you may want to just look for a used tank that's not rusted. But if it's a good piece of equipment, it's very well worth putting a brand new tank on it. If you have an engine with a metal fuel tank like that, a good tip is when you store it, keep the tank full of fuel. What this will do is prevent any moisture from building up on the walls inside the fuel tank and causing rust. So this will be it for this week's Small Engines Questions and Answers. I want to thank everybody for their support. I also want to thank all those who have recently subscribed, and I want to thank all those who regularly watch my videos and comment. Well, have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.